Hi, I'm Leah, and this is the third in the little set of videos that I'm doing about diagnosis with Asperger's autism. And there are other autism videos on my YouTube channel, Leah Wild Creative, and the other two of the diagnosis ones are on there as well. So this one is about for diagnosis I've done one about my own personal experience of my diagnosis, formal diagnosis, and how that went for me. And then I did another video about masking, and then this one is about signs of autism from my own experience and the things that I experience within that. So everybody's different and experiences different things, or well, lots of the same things, but everybody feels it in different ways, or some of some things and some of other things and stuff like that. So anyway, this is from my own experience of what I feel. So yeah, I do these videos to help with awareness and to help with acceptance and to help with, like, if there's people out there that, well, there are, because I've had a lot of messages from people that have really been glad to see videos of people talking about this, and yeah, to just know that you're not alone, and that sometimes it might feel weird, like, well, does anyone else feel like this? And so when people talk about it, it just helps people to see you're not the only person experiencing things in those ways. And also to help maybe with people who live with people who are autistic, either whether they know it or don't know it, or parents of children that are autistic who either know it or don't know it. So hopefully that can be helpful for some. Feel free to send any messages or any questions you want to ask or anything like that. And if you're watching on Instagram, my YouTube channel is Leah Wild Creative. That's Lea, Leah Wild Creative. So yeah, I'll get started with this one. So it's yeah, signs of autism that I experience, because I'm talking from my own perspective. So I haven't put them down in any particular order. Some of them are much more common signs that lots, or most people maybe experience, and some of them may be less common. But yeah, they're not in any particular order. So the first one that I wrote down, I've got my list to help me, is repetitive things. So repetitive movements, repetitive sound, and routines, like repetitive routines of things. So movements, this is called stimming, and everybody experiences that to some degree. Like, people might like pick up bits of paper labels on bottles, or they might flick their pen, or things like that, like nail biting, things like that. So yeah, that all of these things that I'm talking about, there'll be, like, I don't know, maybe everyone or lots of people who aren't autistic will be able to identify with some of these things and think, oh well, I do that and stuff like that. But for with autism diagnosis, it's a collection of several things. It's not just like one or two things. It's like a collection of quite a lot of the things, quite a lot of the signs, and very intensely experienced, to the point that it would really impact either every day or most days. So yeah, a lot of people will identify with some of these things, but for autism diagnosis, it's different. It's like a collection. Yeah, so anyway, movements and stimming. So I will move my hands a lot, flick and click my fingers a lot, bite my nails, pick at my nails, shake my leg, like I'll shake my leg a lot, or sometimes just moving a lot. Now that varies and depends on what I would be experiencing. So like if I'm experiencing a lot of sensory overload, or I'm trying to concentrate, or I'm trying to focus on something, then that's the kind of times when I would really, that would intensify. So it doesn't mean to say that just because someone's autistic that they're going to be stimming all the time. They're probably not, but they might be a lot of the time, or even most of the time. Depends from person to person. So I move a lot, and someone else might not do so much. It depends on the person. So yeah, so repetitive movements, that can come through with sound, like making repetitive sounds. I've put this under this column, music and beats. Like I really like repetitive music and repetitive beats, or like say I will just put on a song and play it over and over and over and over and over and over again, then move on to the next song over and over and over and over again, and like literally hundreds of times. And so like, I like those repetitive sounds, and stuff like that can be soothing to me or help me to focus and concentrate. And then routines and things like that. So like I'm not a massively routine person, as in I get up every day and do the same routine every day. I don't experience things like that, but I do have certain things in my day that I like to do every day, or I like to do at certain times, and I like it to be in a certain way, and I don't like that to change. And then some other people experiences it where they like to do literally the same thing every day and have things in a set routine. So I have that with some things and not with other things. So that's the repetitive. I've put that under the column of repetitive. Perception of space. This one affects me a lot. So I bump into door frames and walls a lot, even people. So, but particularly door frames, like just really my perception of the space that I have around me really changes a lot and is really off kilter. Like, I don't know, it's the way my eyes take in things, I suppose, and it just like it'll look like I've got a lot more space between me and the door frame when I walk through it, and I haven't, and I'll just walk smack into it. I'm quite scared of escalators, not to the point that I won't go on them, but I don't like escalators, again because like the perception of space, of stepping onto it, and I feel scared that I'm gonna miss it, and I think this comes from when I was a child, because I don't think anything would really happen if I didn't step on it straight away. I don't know if anything would happen. No, I don't think anything would happen, but it's just like something that I have from childhood, of like stepping onto an escalator in the wrong way, or going through lift doors. I don't like going through doors that shut, and because of timing and stuff like that. Like crossing roads I find quite difficult. I have to really concentrate to cross roads. Yeah, because like my perception of space between me and the car that's come in, or whether, like sometimes I'll just stand there and wait to cross the road when the car is miles away. So that kind of thing really does affect me a lot. Someone else it might not do so much. So people, things and movements as well. So like sometimes someone could feel too close or too far away. It can come either way really. I quite often will put my hands up to protect myself, like when someone can be like really quite far away, but it feels like, like if they move their hand suddenly, it feels like I'm gonna get knocked by it, and I'm not at all. So I'm like, I'll put my hands up and they're actually like much further away than I think they are. I'll just adjust this. There we are. So and action films, like I really don't like action films because everything feels too fast, and I don't like going to cinemas or watching things on very big screens. I like really small screens if I watch things. Like if I'm at a cinema, or like if there's an action film on, it really feels like it's really close to me or coming at me. And the same with ball games. So yeah, it feels like it's going to hit me when it probably isn't at all. So that, put that under that column, perception of space. Executive functioning is the next one, and this is being able or this is the part that affects me, is being able to put things into order, and organise things. So I often do things in the wrong order. So when things are really, really important, I have to sort of make a plan and write something out, write some instructions for myself so that I'll make sure I do it in the right order. It can be really, really simple things. So I can do like really, really complex things to do with other things. Like autism can be really strange like that. Like I can do really, really complex things and things that other people might find really, really difficult, but then some things that other people would find really, really easy, I would find really, really difficult. Like literally something as simple as making a cup of tea. So like if someone comes, if I'm in my own time and space, I'm fine, like because things take me a really long time. But like say if someone's there and I need to make drinks, especially if everyone wants different drinks, that I can find really difficult. And again, I just want to point out, just to make really, really clear, that can be different on different days because it depends, you know, like different things can affect how strongly I would feel those things. So some days I might just be able to manage that perfectly all right, but quite often that one does affect me a lot. So yeah, like even something as simple as like everybody wants tea, but this person wants 1 sugar and this one person wants 2 sugars and this person wants no sugar and this person just wants a little bit of milk. That, yeah, it's so simple, but it just feels really quite overwhelming to like get it in the right order and make sure that I remember everything and kind of just processing it really. So managing time and organisation and prioritising things, I have a lot of difficulty with those things. And I'm not saying these things like difficulties like as in like, you know, you should feel bad for me. I don't think that at all. Like this is not why I'm making these videos. I make these videos just to help, because some people might experience those things and not even realise why. So it's literally just to spread awareness and help anyone that needs help with that. Hopefully. So like say prioritizing things and getting things in the right order, I might have like a short amount of time before I'm going out somewhere, and instead of getting organized for going out somewhere, I'll decide, you know, or just suddenly just start sorting out something else and start a project or something, and it's not the right time to do that. So yeah, I have to really, really focus to get ready on time and get out the house on time and things like that. And if I've never done things, like it feels like it feels like I've never done things before, like things that I've done lots of times. So it's like where other people just automatically do things because they've done it before over and over again, or even if they do it every day, like my brain will need to just start sorting it out again, even though I've done it before. So it's like I'll just start trying to work out what it is I've got to do and in what order, even though I do these things all the time. It's like it just doesn't stick, you know. I just have to keep reminding myself what goes first and second and third, blah blah blah. Yeah, and also like processing times for putting things in the right order, going back to the cups of tea thing, like say I might offer someone a cup of tea after they'd been visiting for an hour and a half, and then suddenly I realise, oh, I haven't done that. I'm better at that these days, but that used to be something I used to really, really struggle with. So I like really remember now if someone's come in, right, I need to make tea, and I really try and do better with that. But little things like that, I'm just trying to point out how small some of these little things can be. Yeah, that's what I've got on that one. So next I've got sensory. So these are all the different signs. So sensory is the next one. Sensory things can be hyper or hypo. So you can either feel things too much or not enough. So I've put in some examples of this one. I'm not going to go through all my sensitivities, but I've just put down a few examples of where in life I have experienced these things or still do experience things. Just a few examples. So for example, when I worked in a shop, there was strip lighting, and I really found it difficult to cope with the strip lighting, and it would really bother me a lot. And you know, the movement of the light, like I could see the light flicking all the time, and I found that really hard and distracting to deal with. So I would get in trouble a lot, because as soon as I was like on my own in the shop, I would turn all the lights off. It's really bad. I turn all the lights off and just put a couple of lamps on. I mean, that's how I have things set up at home. I've always got lamps on. So I would turn all the lights off and just have a couple of lamps on in this high street shop. Put a lamp in the window to show that the shop was open, but obviously that's not really enough, and I should have had all the lights on. So I used to get in trouble for that a lot. I worked in a bar, and that would feel really stressful because of all the noise coming from different directions, and people are talking over each other, and there's a jukebox on, and there's glasses clanking, and that was really a lot of noise. And yeah, like my perception of sound. So like sometimes, not to do with the bar, but I just thought I'd throw this in there, that sometimes I would like talk too quiet. Sometimes I would shout, like, you know, I'll just start like speaking really loud, and I don't think that I am speaking really loud, but like say someone else will tell me like, Leah, you're talking really loud, and things like that. So like perception of sound and things gets really all over the place sometimes. So there's something else I wanted to say about that. Oh yeah, when I worked in the bar, I would often get really hyper. Like I would feel really hyper, because yeah, I was just that's just me trying to deal with all that's going on. Supermarkets, I've written down, this is all under sensory. Supermarkets, so to another person it would look like this. So it would be like, I, you know, need to just nip into the supermarket and get one thing, only I'd be an hour and a half to get the one thing. So to someone else that could be incredibly annoying, and just seem reasonless of why I would be an hour and a half in a supermarket. But what's actually going on is I would get in there, I don't go in supermarkets hardly ever, but if I go in there, what happens is I get in there, I get really oversensory with sight. First of all the lights, and then obviously there's a lot of noise going on, everybody in there and talking and noises, and the noise of the trolleys and things like that, and people putting things in the trolleys. But my sight would get really oversensory with all the labels, so it feels like to me like my brain's trying to take in every bit of information around me. So it's like my peripheral vision is really good, and I would be like picking up everything. So like all the jars and bottles and things that are on the shelves, it's like my brain just wants to read every single one of them and take in everything. But obviously I don't really want to do that. So yeah, I would get really stuck, like kind of like looking at everything, and I don't really want to be doing that. So it takes me a really long time to get around a shop like that. And all the aisles and things like that, to process the actual point. Like to someone else, they would just go straight to the place that they need to go, get the thing and get out of there. But I've already got distracted like a second after I've walked through the door. So to process where it is I've got to go to, it's like it just is really hard to do. So yeah, my brain's trying to process everything that's going on, and there's a lot going on. So that's kind of what happens in supermarkets. For me, and to do with that as well, to do with the sensory, you know, sensory, but the sight, getting really oversensory with sight. Like if I'm reading a book, now this might be really useful for people who've got kids at school and things. If that kid also experiences what I experienced, that is, if I'm reading, like blinkers would be really good, because when I'm reading, I've got the words on the page in front of me, but my sight is taking in everything, and I think other people probably like channeling on what's in front of them, and my brain is constantly trying to process everything around me. So because my peripheral vision is so good, it's picking up everything. And yeah, if I put my hands over my eyes like that, I can actually read twice as better than if I'm trying to read with it just in front of me. So yeah, I often do read like that. If I'm on my own, I'll just sit and read like that. But you can see why, if I was in school and I'm trying to read something and I'm trying to process something, and there's all this noise going on, there's all these things and feelings to process and all the people around me, it's actually really, really hard just to read something. It doesn't mean that the person can't read, it just means that the environment they're in can make it really difficult. So I like to get inside of things and the reasons why I experience things, and I like to really look into it and pinpoint why things are happening, and then that's what I'm saying, like solutions can be found and ways to make things be easier to process and stuff. So moving on, the next one I've got is special interests. It's called special interests. So that's like, this isn't like a hobby where people just have a hobby and it's nice and they just do it sometimes or not. Special interest is something that's much more intense than that. So it's like really, really, or my experience of it is really, really obsessively wanting to practice and learn and focus on the thing that I'm really, really interested in at the time. I have the advantage of being able to hyper focus on that and do really, really well with those things that I want to learn. So that I see that as like a good thing, as long as there is time to do that, like, you know, and if that's possible, well, I made that my job, so that works out really, really well. And if you're autistic and you can make your special interest your job, then that's absolutely brilliant. It took a lot of work for me to do that. It took many, many years and a lot of hard work, but my determination of doing that, I got there in the end, and that's now my work, to be able to work with crafts and creativity and arts. I also have lots of other interests, like, and like, say things like maps. I really like maps. I like knowing where things are in the world. I like to learn new things about that often, and look inside of continents and countries and see where things are, and kind of, I'm a visual thinker. I like to picture that out in my head of where things are. I'm just really interested in that. And like, I like learning about, say, like rural living in Eastern Europe and things like that. Like I will be interested in something and I'll really, really like looking into that. So yeah, things like that. So like, say if I'm working, like sometimes I'll be absorbing information at the same time, like if I'm like listening to a video or listening to something about something else I'm interested in. So yeah, anyway, yeah, so special interest. So you can see how this isn't, like I say, like everyone might be able to identify with some or several, or, you know, just one or whatever, lots of these things that I'm talking about, but it's much more intense, and it's the combination of lots of these things that make an autism diagnosis. And you can really feel that you're different and you think different. The people around you probably think, yeah, you're really, really different, or you do things really, really weird, or, you know, there's lots of judgments that come along with that. And I'm going to do some more videos about that, because I think that really, really needs addressing as much as possible, to like work with self-esteem and seeing things in a different way to how they might have been, you know, how you might have learnt that it's like not so good or something. Like, a lot of things can be seen, you know, it's just a different way of thinking and a different way of experiencing things. And the things that are really, really difficult, I did a whole video, like if you're interested in this, I did a whole video about self-esteem, and I was talking about how we would live naturally as opposed to how we're actually living in a Western society setting, and the kind of things that we are exposed to and trying to process that we wouldn't naturally need to be processing and dealing with. So if you're interested in that, look up the video about actually I think it's called Special Interests and Self-Esteem. I'll try and remember to put a link to that in the description to this one. So yeah, I'm This video, by the way, I'm really talking about a lot of adulthood things and also from childhood as well, but I'm going to do another video about signs from childhood, again in my own experience and what I've experienced from things, because there's some things in there that I can put in that are different. So I will come back to that and I will do another video about childhood. But under special interest, like when I was a kid, I was really obsessed with maps. Like I really loved this little map book that I had. It's like a little pocket atlas, and I really enjoyed looking at that. I was given it as a present one year, and I loved it. So I would take that to school. And at break times, I wouldn't be playing with the other kids, so I'd have my map book, and I liked learning all the main exports of different countries and population numbers and things like that. Like I was really interested in like learning all the things that are in this atlas book. And I would even like try and collect little things, like say if coffee was the main export, I would this is going to sound really weird, but I'd like have a little bit, like ask my mum for a little bit of coffee, and I'd put it in a little packet, and then a little bit of tea and a little bit of whatever things that I could find possibly that were part of these exports of different countries, and I would try and like map them out on the school field and put them in the places where, like I would picture the map on the school field and put the things in all the places that they would be on the map, and then picture it out. That's really weird, isn't it? But I'll come back to more things about childhood because there's some different things in there. Eye contact is the next one I'm going to talk about. So eye contact for me, I find this really uncomfortable, not all the time and not with every person. I just like to keep pointing this out, that these things vary from day to day. Some day, like everyone will have good days and bad days. If I'm experiencing a bad day, then everything is very intense. My senses are really intense, like like my what's it called, like my executive functioning will be really difficult. Like I'm going to do another video about good days and bad days and things like that, just to make that clear, that everything fluctuates on different times and dates, and not dates, different days and how I'm feeling. So eye contact, not all the time and not with every person, but like I would generally most of the time find eye contact quite uncomfortable. And I know this is quite a common one that a lot of autistic people experience. So when I was a kid, I would just find this really hard, but like at school and from teachers and things like that, I really learned, like people would say things like, oh, you're lying because you can't look at me, or you're being shifty, or you're not listening. That's one that I used to get a lot. You're not listening to me because you're not looking at me. Well, yeah, like actually I would need to look away to be able to focus on what it is that I'm trying to process and things like that. But also it is actually just uncomfortable to look people in the eyes a lot. I just find that really hard. So it might be to do with just too much information, like it's just like, just trying to process while looking at a person. I'm not sure, but it gets really uncomfortable sometimes. So I have forced myself throughout adulthood to really try and get practiced at doing eye contact. And how this comes out is that I end up doing it too much, or I just don't know naturally how much or how little. Like that just doesn't come naturally to me at all. So it's like if I'm trying to do eye contact, then I'll be really looking at the person, then I'll be thinking, have I been looking for too long? Do I need to look away yet? Like, and I'm really like wanting to look away. Is it okay to look away yet? Because I really want to, and then see like how much is this person looking away? Okay, they're looking away, so I'll look away now. There's all this dialogue going on in my head, so you can see why that would be really difficult to process what the person's saying to me. So the more acceptance and the more kind of like awareness there is in the world, you can see like for the children growing up and the other, well, all adults, everybody really, but for generations growing up and stuff, that it will feel less pressure, like all of these things. It will feel easier to say like, I'm having difficulty doing this today, or I'm having difficulty processing this, or I'm having difficulty, do you mind if I just look here, or I'm just letting you know that I'm going to be looking here, not even asking permission, but just like I'm going to be looking here. It's nothing to do with you, and I'm not being weird, and I'm not not listening to you, and then people will understand more because they'll know more about it. Because also the information about autism that's out there is not always how most people experience it themselves. So yeah, I think the more people that make videos and write information about that, the better. Yeah, so forced eye contact, it does not feel good, but it's like, yeah, try and do that. So what's next? Communication and language. Some of these things, like I've touched on in other videos, and I've done a whole video about sensory. So if you're looking at sensory things or want a video just about sensory, there's lots of videos out there, but I've made one that's on my YouTube channel. So I will do a whole video about communication and language because I feel it needs it, but just to touch on it today under this. Processing language, that is a difficult one for me. Like I find that really, really hard. And I think a lot of the times it's just because I'm processing so much of other things as well, and I'm trying to understand like what somebody's saying as opposed to like what they might really want as well. Like I can feel if something's not right, and I can feel if something's not true, and I can feel if something's like little energy changes and things like that, and it all feels really overwhelming, and it would take me a long time to process that that's not right or that's not true and stuff like that. So sometimes I can't process it on the spot, but I just know something's not right. So then the language all gets in a muddle in my head because I'm getting the feeling, but then I'm getting the language which is saying something different, and it all gets really confusing. So, and that's just one part of it, because also words, just the actual words themselves, I often get muddled or understand them in a different way to the context that the person's putting it across in. Yeah, getting words and understanding and speech mixed up is something that happens a lot. When I was little, I had delayed speech. Elfie had early speech. Like people experience things in different ways. So like, mine was really delayed. Elfie's was really early. Verbal instructions. I know a lot of people find verbal instructions really difficult. Jokes and sarcasm. I can do sarcasm because I know that I'm doing it. It's not something I do a lot, but it is something that I can do, but it's not necessarily something that I can understand very well. So if somebody's being sarcastic with me, I might take it literally. I might I often take things quite literally. And jokes as well. Like I can often not understand when someone's joking, and my jokes might not make sense to another person either, because like the things that I find funny are often quite different to what a lot of people find funny. Telephones, I find telephone conversation difficult again a lot of the time, not necessarily all of the time. So like sometimes I have to just not answer the phone because I know I'm not going to be able to process what the person's saying, and I'll have to leave it. But I know how to decide, what I can deal with that day or that moment or whatever, so yeah, it's not all the time, but often telephone conversation can be really difficult. Also emails and messages. I like emails and I like messages, I really, really do, but then it can take me some time to process written language as well. So where somebody else might reply something in just a minute, I can do that sometimes. Like again, it's not like I can't do it anytime, it's just like on certain days it will take me longer. So that's something else I thought I'd put in there as a sign. And echolalia, repeating things back that are said. Someone says something, then repeating it back, just literally echoing it. And I get echolalia a lot in my head as well. Like I'll just go over a certain word or something someone said, and I'm like repeating it in my head. And I think it's just I'm just trying to process what they've said, trying to like get my head around it. Moving on, the next one, socially. So it's another sign, social difficulties. I think I've done a video about that. Yeah, I have done a whole video about social difficulties. So understanding of social rules and things like that does not come naturally to me. It's not something that I learn very well, and it's not something that sticks very well. It's like some things I've learned, some things stick, but some things don't, and I still have difficulty with that now. Yeah, like understanding body language, like that's something, yeah, I really, it's not like all the time or every, you know, it is all the time, but it's not everything. Like some body language I might understand, but there's a lot of it that I wouldn't. So I didn't realise actually how difficult I found that. I actually thought I was all right at body language, but Luke said, like say the one day he was talking to me, and you know, he was like trying to leave the room, and I was still really talking and just not even noticing that he's trying to leave the room or trying to end the conversation, and I've got no idea. And so, and he says like I do that a lot. I like talking to Luke about it. He's my husband, and he helps me understand a lot of things that I do that I might not notice for myself. So that's really helpful. So yeah, there's that one. Social rules, things as well, like saying hello and goodbye. I find that really difficult, like knowing sort of how soon to say hello or how much, you know, it's like I just don't understand the levels of it or how to do it, or that is going to sound so crazy to a lot of people. It just feels really like I'm just not quite sure how soon to go or things like that. You know, again, like say Luke's trying to leave the room, I don't even realise, you know, it's like I'm really not sure when the time, you know, the space of time is before, you know, like saying goodbye and then going and things like that. It's like it just doesn't come in the right order for me. Some of these things are going to sound really daft. I honestly don't mind. I'm not bothered at all. I'm not bothered what people think of me or things like that, because I think it's really important to get these things out there, and then my focus is on trying to help the generations that are growing up, and to just get more understanding out there and to get inside some of these things, because if you go on Google and stuff like that, you'll get certain autism traits and stuff, and signs of autism, but it won't necessarily get inside those things and really explain from an autistic person's point of view why those things are happening and what it is that's going on. And again, I'm just one autistic person. Everybody's going to experience it different. So I'm always going to be really clear, transparent about everything that I am experiencing, because it just feels really important, more important than ego and being bothered what people think. So socially, yeah, I've put change of routine back into here. So like I talked about routine and repetitive things and stuff earlier, but like when plans change socially, or yeah, when things change, like that can feel really difficult, because it's took a lot of processing to get my head around that I'm going to be doing this and I've got to get it all in the right order and stuff like that. So then when things change, I just feel kind of a bit like confused, really. Yeah. Right, moving on. The next one I've got is feelings and emotions. Yeah, I've done a whole video about socialization. I'm going to do a whole video about language and communication. I think also feelings and emotions, because I'm really just trying to go through some of these points today. Because I'm literally just talking about signs of autism from my point of view, so I don't want to get like massively into it, but just to outline it, feelings and emotions, to me it feels like they're either really big, like I feel emotion really massively, or hardly at all, and it can go either way, really. So yeah, like if I feel sadness, like sometimes it takes a long time to process those emotions, and sometimes I've got no idea what emotion I'm feeling at the time, but like I will either feel it really intensely or hardly at all. Also feelings I've also put in here as well, about a lot of the time not knowing if I feel hungry or thirsty. So like I have, like, that's where my routines come in that I've put in place. Like I'll have routines as to when to have a drink and to eat and things like that, because I'll often, sounds crazy, but I'll forget. I won't forget if Luke and Elfie are in the house, because like I'll often be in charge of sorting out food some days and things like that, like me and Luke take it in turns and stuff. But like and getting healthy drinks and things like that, like I always have those routines in place. But if I'm on my own, I can often get really, really zoned into something that I need to focus on and just forget completely. So I make sure I have my routines in place to make sure that I eat and drink at the right times. Otherwise I don't realise that I'm hungry until I'm really, really hungry and desperate. Feelings and emotions continued. I've got mixing up emotions, like getting emotions in the wrong place, like or feeling the wrong emotions, or so-called wrong emotions. One example I've got of this is when I was really little, and I can remember it so clearly because it affected me so much. There was somebody at my school, and I hadn't actually that long been at school, and she told everyone that her dog had died, and everyone was all, you know, doing the correct thing for like comforting her and things like that. And my natural reaction, I laughed. It wasn't because I found it funny, it was because I did the wrong emotion and it just came out wrong, and I did not find it funny. I love dogs, and that, again, that can sound really strange, but I know a lot of other people have had similar things happen, because I've heard other people talking about this as well. But it was really, really upsetting. I felt really upset, and I think I felt upset inside, but it's just, it came out as a laugh, and it not intentionally. It's just like a response. It's just like, yeah. And of course everyone hated me then because I laughed when she said the dog had died. So I do the wrong emotions and the wrong expressions, facial expressions at the wrong times and things like that. It all comes out quite higgledy-piggledy. And that's quite a common thing that I experience. Yeah. So another one, feelings, emotions, I put it in that place, like speaking the truth. Being blunt, that's something a lot of people really experience. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that, that they're told they're too blunt or too honest and things like that. I actually really, really like it when people are really, really honest, and I don't like any complications to it. I like it when people are really 100% honest and clear. Not if they're putting their own stuff onto me and it's like they're not actually like dealing with their own feeling of something, and then they're trying to make it like blame, or like trying to make it someone else's fault when it's not. I don't mean that. I mean like true honesty, like real honesty. Yeah, I really, really value truth and honesty. I love it, and I love it really clear. Like what other people might call blunt, I like it really, really clear, because otherwise it just feels complicated, and I like things to be really simple. It's like just as it is. I really, really love that, and I think there's a lot of other autistic people who also feel like that. Yeah, there's oh, I just put down as well about visual thinking, but I actually talked about that earlier. So like that's something that really helps me with learning and with instructions and doing things. Like if I see things in a visual way, if I don't know how to put it across into words, but I'm a visual thinker, so think when I can visualize things, then I can do it a lot easier and I can process it a lot easier. So I've just put a note about that, and I'll try and think about how I can put that into better words or more clear, and do that again another time. But I've just put that down there as one of the things. So yeah, I hope this was helpful to, even if it's just to one person, doesn't matter to me. Like I just, yeah, hope that's helpful to someone, or lots of people, however it comes. If you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, if there's anything you would really like me to cover in a future video, like, you know, feel free to ask. That's fine. Yeah. Oh, and I should have said this at the start, really, because some people might have clicked off a video by now. But if you're still here, if you could put, unless you hate it, I wouldn't want you to be dishonest. But um, if you found this video useful, like, please do put a like on it, because the reason why I'm asking that, I don't care about popularity whatsoever, but it really, really helps to get those videos seen by other people who need them. So the more interaction, this is how it works on like YouTube and Instagram and things like that, the more interaction that are on things, the more visibility it has to other people who might need it. So that would be really helpful to anyone who needs it, and to help get that information out there. So thank you. Bye.